This is the story of the great Indian education factory. Every year, millions of Indian students wake up before sunrise. They memorize thousands of pages, pushing their limits physically and mentally. They sacrifice sleep, sacrifice childhood, sacrifice their very identity, just to answer one question correctly. That is the singular focus. And yet, the most troubling part is the outcome and relevance of all this effort. Most of them will never use 90% of what they studied in their actual lives or careers. India produces engineers who hate engineering, forced into careers that bring them no joy. Doctors struggling with depression, burdened by the pressures of a system that prioritizes rote learning over well-being. Graduates without jobs, discovering their hard-earned degrees don't guarantee employment. And children who are terrified of failure before they even understand life itself. So here's the disturbing question that we must ask ourselves. Is the Indian education system actually educating people and preparing them for the complexities of the world? Or is it simply manufacturing obedient workers, designed to follow instructions, not to innovate or question? This is the true cost. This is, quote, the great Indian education factory. Imagine being judged for your entire future by a 3-hour exam. One sheet of paper, one rank, one number. That number decides whether society respects you, whether relatives celebrate you, whether your parents feel proud or ashamed. And the scariest part? Most Indians never question this system because we were born inside it. Think about this. A child enters school curious. They ask questions constantly. Why is the sky blue? Why do birds fly? Why do humans dream? But slowly, something changes. By the time that child becomes a teenager, curiosity becomes fear. Learning becomes pressure, and education becomes survival. Today, India has one of the largest education systems in the world. More than 250 million school students. Millions preparing for brutal competitive exams. Millions preparing for brutal competitive exams. An entire economy built around fear. Coaching industries worth billions. Parents emotionally invested. Society obsessed with marks. But here's the paradox. Despite producing toppers, India still struggles with innovation, critical thinking, scientific temperament, employability, and emotional well-being. India struggles with innovation, critical thinking, scientific temperament, employability, and emotional well-being. Why? To understand that, we must go back in time, way back, to the real origin of modern education. And what you're about to discover may completely change how you see school forever. What you're about to discover will completely change how you see school forever. Most people think schools were created to make humans intelligent, but history tells a more uncomfortable story. The modern education system was heavily shaped during the Industrial Revolution. Factories needed workers, not philosophers or rebels. The design was simple. People trained to follow instructions, arrive on time, obey authority, and repeat tasks efficiently. Factories needed obedient workers. This structure favored compliance and repetition over critical thinking or creativity. School timing, uniforms, permission to speak, standardized testing, even bells. Sound familiar? They mirror factory culture. In India, this system became even more powerful during British colonial rule. It was a tool of deeper influence. Thomas Babington Macaulay proposed creating a class of Indians, Indian in blood and color, but English in taste, opinions, morals, and intellect. Education wasn't just about learning. It was about psychological conditioning, creating administrative workers for the British Empire. Even after India gained independence in 1947, many foundations of that industrial colonial system remained untouched. The core focus remained: memorization over creativity, obedience over curiosity, and marks over mastery. This system worked for the industrial age, but the world changed. Today rewards creativity, adaptability, and emotional intelligence. Yet millions are trained like it's 1920. This creates a dangerous psychological conflict because human beings are not machines. Let's look at the psychology of fear and marks. The education system is built almost entirely on extrinsic motivation, doing something for rewards, like marks and rank, or to avoid fear and shame. Neuroscience shows that when learning is driven mainly by fear, creativity drops, curiosity drops, memory quality drops, and confidence drops. Research highlights the importance of a growth mindset, but many students are conditioned to fear mistakes because mistakes are punished. Wrong answer? Red mark. Low marks? Humiliation. Failure? Social embarrassment. This is conditioning students to fear. Imagine being 15 and believing your worth depends on percentages. India has witnessed repeated student mental health crises linked to this academic pressure. Exam anxiety, depression, burnout, and tragically, suicides are seen especially in intense coaching ecosystems like those for JEE or NEET exams under crushing pressure. A teenager's brain is still developing, especially emotional regulation systems, yet society puts massive psychological weight on them. Your future depends on this exam. What kind of emotional environment does that create? Fear, constant fear. Fear may produce obedient students, but it rarely produces extraordinary thinkers. It's time we acknowledge this legacy. Welcome to a deep dive into India's shadow education empire, where the pursuit of academic success comes at a profound human cost. There's a city in India where dreams and anxiety coexist together, Kota. Thousands of students migrate there every year. Imagine the visuals: tight Kota hostels and crowded coaching classes, the epicenter of this intense competition. It's a relentless grind. Tiny rooms, endless tests, 12-hour study schedules. Entire childhoods are compressed into competition. In this high-pressure environment, the outcome is stark. Some survive, some succeed, and tragically, some break. The coaching industry in India has evolved into a full parallel education system. But why? It's simple. Many students no longer trust schools alone. That itself says something disturbing about the state of our core education. Imagine paying for education twice, school fees and then coaching fees, just to actually crack the crucial entrance exams. But here's the deeper, psychological issue that often goes unspoken: the toll of constant competition. Competitive environments foster chronic comparison, and comparison, sadly, is addictive. It hooks students into an endless race. Marks become identity. Rank becomes self-worth. Your value is tied directly to your performance on a single test. This creates a toxic loop where your friend's success can feel intensely like your own personal failure. Psychologists call this conditional self-esteem. You only feel valuable when you achieve a goal. But what happens to your sense of self-worth when achievement disappears or a test is failed? Many students enter adulthood emotionally exhausted, unable to handle uncertainty, unable to fail, and unable to explore identity beyond performance. This brings us to the conclusion: the invisible trauma. It's the hidden scar of this education system. Society celebrates only the toppers, focusing on the high ranks and top scores. We never truly acknowledge the emotional cost. We never see the invisible trauma. It's time we look deeper into the shadows of this education empire. Welcome to the employability paradox, a deep dive into one of the biggest ironies of our modern education and professional landscape. Now comes the biggest irony of all. A massive number of young people graduate every year, ready to join the workforce. Despite producing millions of graduates, companies repeatedly complain about a severe lack of employability. How is that possible? The core problem is this: the traditional metrics of success simply don't translate into real-world value anymore. A degree is often mistaken for capability, but they are not the same thing in today's fast-changing economy. Because information is not intelligence, memorization is not understanding, and a mountain of facts is not the same as being capable. Reports repeatedly show graduates struggle with crucial practical skills: communication, critical thinking, and real-world problem-solving. Meanwhile, an irreversible force is fundamentally changing the job market: artificial intelligence. Routine, repetitive work is disappearing fast. AI and automation are replacing tasks previously handled by entry-level workers. Machines can now memorize better than humans, calculate faster, and store exponentially more information. They beat us at the information game. So, if machines handle the routine and the recall, the real question becomes, what makes humans valuable now? The answer lies in uniquely human traits: creativity, original thinking, adaptability, empathy, and innovation. Here's the painful irony. These essential human skills are the exact ones our traditional educational systems often suppress. Think about it carefully. In many settings, independent or unconventional thought is discouraged. A child who asks too many disruptive questions is called distracting. A student who thinks differently may lose marks for coloring outside the lines. Yet, those same unconventional, questioning thinkers often grow up to become the very innovators and leaders we celebrate later in life. History repeatedly demonstrates a pattern. Extraordinary minds rarely fit perfectly inside rigid, standardized systems. Figures like Steve Jobs or APJ Abdul Kalam exemplify this. Their genius lay in challenging norms, not conforming to them. Because creativity is fundamentally messy, unpredictable, and sometimes chaotic. And standardized systems, designed for efficiency and order, fear that messiness.